what are the fundamental differences between self-funded ETA and independent sponsorship?
Okay. So I view them, they're very similar in that I think of self-funded search as like the baby brother of independent sponsor. To me, the key differences are a self-funded searcher, they intend to go in and run the business. They're going to be the operator. So they're doing only one deal, at least at that time. Whereas an independent sponsor are generally planning to bring in some kind of an operator, and then they intend to do multiple deals. I think that's like the core difference. But then there's a downstream effect of that creates a ton of other differences. But I think that's like definitionally the difference in my mind.
I think so. So to be clear, you, Bluma, you acquired it. You are the daily operator, the president and CEO, also the majority controlling shareholder. And you have one business primarily.
Correct. That's right.
I, the independent sponsor, I would say, by the way, like I'm probably not like the vanilla version of an independent sponsor. I don't have multiple platforms, multiple businesses. To start, I was definitely far more in the business than the typical independent sponsor. I've always thought of an independent sponsor as a private equity firm or private equity professional that just doesn't have committed equity capital.
Well, so when I worked at Bain Capital, we actually backed a couple of independent sponsor deals. And back then, the more like derogatory term people used is they called it a fundless sponsor, right? You have a funded sponsor and a fundless sponsor. They now they rebranded fundless sponsor to be independent sponsor.
Yeah, what's interesting is the last, 5 or 10 years we've been a part of the ETA, the growth in the ETA community. It's undoubtable that the community has exploded. I think what's maybe hidden a little bit in all of that is how much the independent sponsor community has grown. There's just less, media promotion around it outside of like the sponsor circles. Okay, so all that's to say there are some pretty stark differences. So we kind of have some notes on different ways we're going to compare and contrast. So let's just talk about it. What are your day-to-day responsibilities at Bluma?
Yeah, so my day-to-day responsibilities as of right now are I manage the team. I call myself president, but I'm general manager, right? Like that's my role. The operations manager directly reports to me, the sales team directly reports to me, our customer service manager directly reports to me. So I have, several direct reports within the business who are not even all managers, right? So it's like I'm a manager of sub-managers and I'm a manager of individual contributors.
Okay. And my role as an independent sponsor in the early days of PSG was much more of a blend between your role and call it like a private equity type independent sponsor. I shared the PE roles of sat on the board, the sponsor entity, which was my partner and I, controlled the business. And yet, because it was still a fairly small business at the time, we were very much in it. The one thing we had zero responsibility for, operational responsibility for, was like day-to-day operations. Everything else, sort of back office, finance, accounting, capitalization, shareholder, investor relations, M&A, strategic, all of it, everything else, that was what our day-to-day responsibility was.
Right. And by contrast, my first couple of years, like I was opening the gate at the yard, every morning and locking it every evening.
And to be even clear, the traditional independent sponsor would have far less day-to-day responsibility. You could think about them as they sit on the board. They may coach the CEO. I should have mentioned as an independent sponsor, my version, my other partner, the third of the three of us, he is and was and is the CEO. So his daily responsibility was to be the president and CEO of the business. And all of those things reported to him that you mentioned.
No. Yeah, the more traditional independent sponsor, right? Like you're saying, it looks more like independent sponsor, the actual person is kind of chairman of the board, kind of runs the board meeting and is probably doing like a weekly to monthly meeting with the CEO. And so acting kind of like the hands-on kind of training wheels.
Yep. And then I would say there are flavors of other responsibilities. Definitely, like, they'll manage the lender relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They'll definitely do investor relations, that they are the investor. So that's kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They will definitely lead M&A and any kind of strategic projects. But
Yep.
I think we've kind of hit it. I would say, like, an independent sponsor by definition is, like Kostep said, going to have maybe 2, 3, 4, or 5 platforms. So they are just not going to spend 40 to 60 hours a week on a platform. They might spend 0 to 5 hours a week, or 10 if there's a deal.
Yeah. My sense is that the way they operate, if they're trying to build like an independent sponsor firm, right, where they're really trying to do this at scale and repeated, they're closing their first deal. They're maybe spending the first 6 months to a year really hands-on with the CEO, but then they're quickly trying to pull back to then go look for the next deal and then the next deal. Like, they're looking to put these in serial order.